This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
You've seen and read my 3 Pillars ebook, and now I'm proud to announce my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship, and it's now out and ready for reading. This new book of mine is a full-length version of the teachings of the 3 Pillars, and in it I show you how to walk in the integrity of eternal and universal laws, in step with the law of attraction to consistently create the life you desire. Now, if you've ever wondered just why you can't consistently manifest all the good, loving, abundant, healthy, and happy things you desire, my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, will reveal the key in how to do just that. Plus, help you build a rock-solid personal foundation that will stand strong for the ages. Get your copy today. My new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship by Carl Gruber. Available now in ebook and paperback on Amazon.com. Greetings to all of you spiritual and enlightenment seekers. You have landed in the right place because this is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now, before we embark on episode number 172 of this show, I'd like to invite you to download your free copy of my short ebook, The 3 Pillars, a simple 3-step process to manifest positive and permanent change in your life. Now, this short ebook will help you to build a rock-solid personal foundation for your life and help you to live the life you love and love the life you live. Just click that link in the show notes below to get your free copy today. Now, to say that I am super excited and happy to have my 2 special guests on today's show would be an understatement. So without further ado, here are the 2 sisters from the Toledo, Ohio area, now live from Hollywood, California, Cindy Lora-Renard and Jackie Lora-Jones, 2 of my favorite women. Welcome, ladies. Welcome.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Carl. We're thrilled to be here with a fellow Ohioan. Cindy and I, born and raised in Toledo, Ohio, right? For the most part.
And Cindy's still muted there. So there there we go.
Now there we go. So I said, yay! I said, nice to be here. Nice to be here again and doing it with Jackie as well. We haven't done this as sisters with you yet. So this is nice.
Yeah, I know you guys shows together, but I'm so appreciative to have you here. Let me just tell people a little bit more about you two. Now, Cindy Lora-Renard is an international speaker on A Course in Miracles, as well as a spiritual life coach with a master's degree in spiritual psychology. She's been traveling the world with her husband, Gary Renard, in addition to her solo events, helping to introduce the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And she's also the author of 4 books, A Course in Health and Well-Being, The Business of Forgiveness, Heaven is Now, and Spiritual Coupling. On top of that, Cindy is an awesome singer and musician. And her sister, Jackie Lora-Jones, is also an international teacher of A Course in Miracles for over 20 years and is now offering spiritual guidance and growth as a teacher of non-dualistic spirituality. She's also the author of a book called All Peace and No Pieces. And ladies, all I can say is I probably should have brought sunglasses because there's so much love and light reflecting off you guys. Man, it's blinding.
Well, light and love.
Go ahead and put them on, Carl.
Light and love. Yeah.
Well, let's dive into this. So we have two sisters who grew up together in Northwest Ohio, who both ended up following the same path of becoming spiritual teachers and coaches, and who both now live in Hollywood. Was this by design or coincidence?
Well,
you want to take it, Sid? You take it first.
Well, it flowed very naturally. I'll make it brief, the story, but my mother and I moved out here back in 1987 during what people call the harmonic convergence. But anyway, it was 1987. My mother and I was still in high school. Jackie was, I'll let her talk about that, but I mean, she was still in college at IU at the time, Indiana University, and I was still in high school. So my mother and I moved out first. We're out here for a few years before Jackie then moved out. Pretty much since then, I would say, even though we moved around a little bit, pretty consistently for the last 30 years, we've been in LA, you know, even though I moved to Michigan briefly for a year and a half or so. But I came back to LA. So I've actually could say I've been here almost 37 years now.
Wow.
But yeah, we've all kind of, my mother and Jackie and I have been out here very consistently for a very long time now.
And you, Jack?
Yeah. So as Finn said, I was finishing up at Indiana University, and I would come out and visit in summers. And then I had a short stint with my first marriage in Chicago. I was in Chicago for about 5 years. So I had come out here to California, went back to Chicago, lived in Chicago for 5 years. My first husband, Tony, and I separated, and I just was called back to California. So I came back here in 96 and now have been out here ever since 96. So long time.
And both of your parents, your mom and dad, were professors at the University of Toledo, right?
That's right. Yep.
That's
They were
right.
both,
Yeah.
my mother was a professor of music, and my dad was a professor of American history.
Wow. So
Yeah.
Long careers.
yeah, you come
And then
from
my mom went back, our mom went back to school and got a second PhD in psychology. And so she was a professional psychologist for over 20 years. So yeah, they just were educators and were called to that, and have both had wonderful careers doing that.
you guys have smart genes. I like that.
I'll take it.
That's
I'll
what
take it.
Gary always says. You guys are from a strong gene pool. all our parents are teachers, meaning even my stepmother was a teacher, was an English teacher, 8th grade English teacher. So it's interesting that all our parents were teachers. Yeah.
Well, from what I know about you two, and gosh, I think Cindy, this is her 4th time on my show. Jackie, her 2nd time on my show. From what I know about you two, it seems that both of you tried out all the self-help movements, all the best methods, until you found A Course in Miracles. What were the key moments for both of you in making the shift to exclusively dedicating yourself to A Course in Miracles?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll start, or do you want to start?
Go ahead,
start?
Finn. Go
Making
ahead.
the shift to A Course in Miracles was for me a very natural, organic process, because in the early 90s, and I was in my early 20s, that might give you an idea how old I am now. But anyway, in the early 90s, I was just reading anything I could get my hands on in regards to spirituality that had to do with, especially I was interested in psychic phenomena, mediumship, just anything otherworldly. I would just read and read and read. I take it as a sign that was preparing me for A Course in Miracles along the way. I always knew about A Course in Miracles, and would see it on the bookshelf at the local metaphysical bookstore and all that, and I would see it. I just didn't really start doing the workbook lessons and getting into it till a little bit later, after I met Gary. But making the shift was very easy. I actually, my mother was doing it first, the workbook of the course and would talk about it a lot. And she was sharing the lessons with me and what she was learning. And I thought it was fascinating. And I thought, God, I should really start getting into this. But after my mother brought home The Disappearance of the Universe, and I read Gary's first book, my husband Gary's first book, that's when I really, that's when I made the shift really into the course. Because I said, oh, this is it. Everything was familiar to me about what Gary was saying in his book, in Art and a Person, about the course. And I thought, oh, this is really ringing true, including a familiarity with Gary too. So all of that pulled me right into the course, and starting the workbook. And I was in the early 2000s. And but that's kind of how I made the shift, was through, I'd say my mother had a large part of it because she was talking about it all the time. And then it went from there naturally.
And you read A Disappearance of the Universe and said, I like that book. I think I'll marry that guy.
Yeah. Very interesting. I really did feel familiar with Gary. Like I could not take my eyes off his picture, not because I felt this at the time, oh, I'm in love with this person. It was like, I know this person.
Yeah.
I know him. It was so familiar. Everything that was being shared, and even his personality, it's like I knew everything about him. And then lo and behold, a few months after that, I met him in a book signing line in Vegas at one of his events. My mother and I went to that one. And Gary had the same reaction with me. I could tell he had this familiarity instantaneously. And then we kept in touch from there. He asked me, because I told him I was a musician, and because he was a musician. And then he said, gosh, is there a way I can contact you? And I was surprised he even said that. But I said, yeah, and I was really happy he said that. And then a few days after that, he did contact me and said exactly what I felt. He said, I feel like when I met you, and your mother, I knew you. I said, I felt the same thing. And then, of course, we found out later why. That is, we really were connected for, and not only in this lifetime, but many other losery, but still lifetimes. We've known each other for a very long time, and we just came back together, and for obvious purpose now.
And of course, there are no accidents or coincidences, right?
No coincidences. There's no such thing. Nothing happens by chance. Yep. No.
Jackie, what about you? How did you come to the course?
Yeah, well, Sin and I have lots of crossover there, but I had been in the spiritual buffet line in the 90s as well, and I was really good at kind of manifesting things, and I was reading a lot of just spiritual stuff and creative visualization, Shakti Gawain, all the Deepak Chopra stuff. Loved Wayne Dyer, just soaked up all his books and everything. And even though I was able to manifest, I had very strong psychic abilities and intuitive abilities, I started noticing, like, why doesn't everything manifest? Or what's the difference? You can manifest some things but not other things. Or why is the world the way it is? Like, I would just look out and I just couldn't put my finger on it, Carl, but I was always like, something's going on here. And I used to tell my mom, I used to think, I just almost couldn't believe all the strife and everything. Like, I would say to myself, can't people just get along or whatever? I mean, really, I just didn't understand it. And I would say to my mom all the time, I just can't put my finger on it. And then enter A Course in Miracles and enter what the ego is in the ego script and duality. And you can't manifest everything here or be in a situation where everything works out or whatever. And the Course explains all that. So every question that I ever had about anything, the Course answered that for me. So I thought, God, that's so interesting. I can still do all the other things I'm doing, but I won't be confused and I won't be attached and I won't be as reactive when certain things happen or don't happen, And so from then on, just kind of off and running with it. And like Cindy said, my mother did bring home The Disappearance of the Universe from a course group that she was going to. and gave it to me as sin. And I'll never forget it. My mom just said, "This is what you've been saying," meaning I kept saying, what is going on with the world? Even though I had been practicing the course since probably 99. So then it just all started to fall into place. And then I learned about Ken Wapnick, and it was just off and running. So that's really the short of it. But it just answered so many questions. And I thought, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I got it.
You know, it's
Right?
interesting. As far as Gary Renard's book, The Disappearance of the Universe, I actually tell a lot of people who are new to A Course in Miracles, read that book first. Because as we know, when you start reading the ACIM, it's like so much of it is written in iambic pentameter like Shakespeare, and you're like, what is this stuff? And then Gary's book with Art and Impersa really is kind of a primer for A Course in Miracles. It's simply explained, and it really is beautiful.
It really is. I always say to Gary, if I didn't even know you, Gary, I say to him, I would still think this way about your book. Like, I think it's a total masterpiece. Mm-hmm. The way it pulls, I don't know, just the way they pull everything together so clearly. It is like a can opener to the course. We've heard many, many people say that. And I would say that even if I didn't know Gary, because it did that for me too, you know, and it just is. It's just one of those books that it's a good starting point for a lot of people. Maybe not everyone. I mean, I know everybody's different with what style they like, but for a lot of people, it's really been the can opener. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to ask you, was there ever a time in either of your lives where you found yourself going through a dark night of the soul phase? If so, how did you snap out of it? So maybe Jackie, you can tell us.
Yeah, how much time do you have, and how many dark nights of the soul do you want to know about?
I'm glad you started with Jackie on that one. Go ahead, Jack.
I've with my teachings, with my clients, with everything, been very public about things, sharing my journey, because we can't escape that here, and we're not encouraged to try to escape it. We're just encouraged to look at it as part of our classroom, right, with our right-minded teacher, and so we can move through it and then transcend it, you know. So I've been very public about when Mark got back from Afghanistan, this is years and years and years ago, and had PTSD, and how difficult that was, navigating our relationship, helping him heal, helping me not be so reactive, it could be 2 podcasts to kind of chronicle what we went through. And the course really helped both of us. He was a course student before he met me. He loved the teachings. His mother has been following the teachings for 30 plus years. And so he had that with him, you know, when he was in some of these difficult situations. So our relationship has had so many phases where we've totally grown and learned together, and learned what stuff is ours, what's the other person's, what am I projecting, what do I need to take responsibility for. So I've had, you know, some dark nights of the soul where depression runs in my family. So I had bouts where I would just be sad for no reason. I couldn't figure it out. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Number 1, depression runs on my mom's side. Number 2, this is what the ego does. We're up, we're down, we're this, we're that. And what A Course in Miracles was able to help me do was watch all that without judging myself. And the healing occurs when the guilt is not there. And when you're giving your classroom to your internal teacher, whatever anyone calls that, the Course calls it the Holy Spirit or Jesus. But whatever you give to that part, your right mind, to help you look at everything without guilt, you'll be guided as to things that will help you here. And so I've always done that. And I've had a lot of years of like peacetime where I wouldn't have a dark net or something, but then something would come up and I'm like, well, here's the class again. So here we go, still watching it. I think that's one of the best things about A Course in Miracles, and there are many, is that it's just between you and the Holy Spirit or Jesus, meaning use your classroom. That's what we need to use the symbols of the world a while to heal and awaken. And so I've always just been observing my transitory states here and then going through them as best I can, and then being guided as to what things will help me go through those things, all the while simultaneously knowing what the one problem is, right? Simultaneously, the mind level, you're doing the mind work, the forgiveness work.
Wow, that's an excellent explanation of that. So, and thank you. What about you, Cindy? Any dark nights of the soul things that you had to deal with before you come into the course?
Before I came into the course, because I've had some after.
Or since then too, yeah. You know, either now.
Well, yes. First of all, I carried over, which I'm working through this lifetime. I carried over from the Yeshua, Jesus lifetime, some anxiety that Thaddeus had, which I came in this lifetime, obviously with a similar theme that I'm working on with that, because I used to get, pretty severe panic attacks before the course. This was before the course, and I was getting panic attacks and things, and I wasn't recalling the cause of that at the time. I didn't know what the cause was at the time. I just thought it was something on the surface. But we know the course tells us there is no outside, so it can't really be something outside of me that's causing the anxiety. So eventually I worked with figuring out more what the true cause was. And it does tie into some events that occurred in that other lifetime. But ultimately, the lesson is learning that you can't really be separate from anyone or anything and from God itself. That's the ultimate lesson in this, is that there's no separation. So, but the separation showed up for me in a way that it took the form of anxiety, like separation anxiety. And so I have been working through that. And 4 years ago, this is just 4 years ago now, right? Same year of the pandemic, I hit my head really hard. I think I told you, Carl. I wrote about it in my book. By the way, I'm pretty open in my books about some of my experiences. And I did hit my head pretty hard. And that was a big forgiveness opportunity, because to this day, I still have a little bit of that swaying sensation in my head that I'm working on. And I have people coming into my awareness now that I think may be able to help me with that. But it really triggered me, because it's like not only did I hit my head, but it kind of knocked my inner world to the core, where I was sort of really motivated me to go within even more and really get to the root of the anxiety that amped up the anxiety as well. And after that, I had a horrible chiropractic appointment, which really misaligned me and it added to the anxiety. And it was a very difficult period, but I got through it because I have to say, the course is thought system. I was really practicing it. I would say things like, I place the future in the hands of God. I am as God created me. His son can suffer nothing. I am his son. I would forgive according to the course's version of forgiveness, meaning I really am dreaming all this. I'm dreaming this, that even I hit my head. I'm dreaming that even the anxiety is part of the dream. Everything's part of this projection. And I knew what to do about that. And I could bring it to the atonement principle. Remember, I'm still at home, safe in God. Nothing really happened. I'm just watching my own story go by, like little images floating by. But in addition to the course, I always have support around me. I have family and friends and everybody, also, that's very important when you go through what you think of as a dark night of the soul, is that you have a great support system around you. Very important, feeling that you do have sort of a safe space to, deal with whatever it is coming up. So that's very important. And, but yeah, so I really look back now on that period and I go, wow, what was it in me that made it through some of those hard times? Well, I have to turn it over to the Holy Spirit within me. I got in touch with the Holy Spirit and remembered the truth in those moments. And I would do that every day. Remember the truth. Every day I would say it to myself that I'm dreaming. And it didn't mean that I wouldn't take care of myself if I needed to go to see a chiropractor, or I needed to go sit a course and go to a massage therapist, or I would do the natural kind of loving thing to normal thing to do at the same time. What can I do to, make myself feel better or more aligned? And I would do whatever modality I felt was helpful. And I'm still on that path, actually, of, exploring a couple different modalities that, too, with this. So in addition to practicing the mind level stuff, of A Course in Miracles, combination.
I find it interesting you're talking about support systems. So using myself as an example, and I know there's plenty of people out there, I've been a wild and crazy bachelor for a long time. I live with a cat, right? When I have my dark nights of the soul, I will say, it is, there's no support system. So, but my support system is, A Course in Miracles. And it really, really has helped me, because on those times where I'm going through some tough I've gone through the workbook countless times over the years, and a lot of times I just latch on and I repeat them over. I'm the Holy Son of God himself. God's Son can suffer nothing, and I am his Son. And these things, really do help me, and they help me find a sense of peace at this point in my life like I've never had before in my life. And I have to say that to any viewer or listener here who doesn't have a support system, the ACIM, A Course in Miracles, really can be that for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent point.
Of course,
Maya is there for you. Little Maya. Your kitty.
That's right. Hey, we can't underestimate the power of our animal companions. Their presence, right?
Watches over me so closely. She's so tuned in. Of course. Energy. And if, even at night, I think I must snore at night because she goes, wake up. But, but I do want to.
Is she going to make an appearance?
She's crashed out on the couch over here. But, I do want to ask you this. Both of you do ACIM workshops, and you, Jackie, still do individual counseling, which leads me to ask, what is the biggest form of resistance you encounter when you're working with people who seem to want to open up to receive the teachings and love of the Holy Spirit, but they can't let go of their ego-directed life?
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things that I hear most people say is they're really afraid to look within and look at their stuff. And they skip steps. And because they understand the metaphysics of A Course in Miracles, there's a tendency to kind of bypass things and say, oh, but I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't do this because we're taught that the world's an illusion. It's not our reality. I'm supposed to be spiritual or this or that, right? And so I've worked with countless people and course, teachers and people that share the message on that very thing. I think for some reason, I find that it's very hard for people to integrate the teaching sometimes in their own lives, and that's understandable. And so instead of really looking at the stuff, what's right in front of them that's bothering them, they're kind of skipping to, oh, but it's an illusion. I shouldn't feel this way. Now, I work with a lot of people that are over the years that are not Course in Miracles students, or they're just following another path or something like that. And I find that I really one of my skill sets is helping people go within and follow their own inner teacher. And everybody understands when I say, oh, there's a part of your mind, right, that's telling you this and that and how to give up on yourself and you're guilty or whatever. But there's another part of your mind. Isn't there a gentler part? They're like, yeah. Oh my gosh. So I'm helping people, Course in Miracles people or not, tune into their own guidance so they always have their answers and their connection gets developed. So if that makes sense, that's what I try to do across the board for everyone. And everybody's has their individual curriculum, and I meet people where they are, and we just kind of go from there. But because I know A Course in Miracles, because I practice it at the mind level, I don't see anybody as separate from me. The mind level, I know that my clients and I are one. I'm just a catalyst right now where I am tuning in, giving them information. I remind them when they're ready that it's coming from their own mind, because there's just one.
Yeah. Wow, great explanation. Even myself as a life coach, and I tell them right up front, my clients, I'm not going to be the one to change you. You are. And so I help them go in to that inner teacher and find their true passion and who they really are. And yeah, that's a beautiful way to do it. What about you, Cindy? Any resistance you encounter with the people you deal with in coming to the understanding of non-dualistic spirituality?
Yeah, actually, even people who are course students, there's tremendous resistance. We all, in a way, have it to some degree. I mean, at times, maybe even if we don't recognize it. But there's resistance because we don't, as the Course says, really, if we're really being honest, unconsciously, the ego doesn't want to learn the Course. It doesn't. There's a powerful section that I just reviewed, actually, and that's why this is in my awareness right now, the fear of redemption. It's a very powerful section that, in a nutshell, explains the entire Course's thought system and why we're so afraid to learn the Course, why the resistance comes up. We feel we're going to be annihilated. The ego wants to hold on to its identity. Mm-hmm. And we've come to grow to love this identity. In fact, this identity has become our hero, our idol. And the ego doesn't want to give that up. There's tremendous resistance to looking toward the light and with fixed determination toward the light, because that means the end of you as you are, you as a body, a personality, me, Cindy. And that's terrifying. But what the ego is really afraid of is God, is love, because once it gets wind of the fact that there's another part of the mind that knows that only God is real, and you're part of that God, this perfect love, that means you are no more. You no longer exist as you thought you did. So, and not only that, the ego has this projection, this idea that God is going to punish us. We fled the mind, we flee the mind, and because we think that God is somehow going to come now and get revenge because of what we did, right? The sin. So that's where the resistance is coming from. Now, it's not easy to remember that sometimes in the moments, because we think, oh, I just don't have time, to do it, the Course or the lessons or all that. But if you dig a little bit deeper, as a Course student, there's a lot of fear in letting go. But the good news is we don't have to let go of this identity all at once. We do it in stages. We do it in steps. The whole development of trust section in the Course talks about the whole undoing of the ego and all the phases we go through in this undoing, which it can be hard. Some of those phases are challenging phases. But we all go through all of them at any given point in time until we get to the period of achievement. And that comes later, and we don't even have to worry about that part. That will come when it comes, just like enlightenment comes when it comes, just a recognition, but we don't have to dwell on it. But we want to look at just what's right in front of our face so we can understand why it is in that moment that we feel resistance, and why are we feeling a grievance or a judgment against someone or something. We want to look at the things in our everyday lives. That's where a classroom is, in our everyday lives, and practice forgiveness on those things that really trigger us. And remember the best we can, remember the truth, and say, hey, you know what? Even if I don't believe what the Course is saying in this moment, because I'm not choosing it, even if I don't believe it, I'm still as God created me. Nothing's changed. I'm still innocent. My innocence has never left God. I just allowed myself to forget. And I wanted to forget. And that's okay. Doesn't mean that we are really guilty. It's just a belief. And that can be worked with, and it can be undone through true forgiveness.
I think that when you first come to the Course and you read, well, this is the undoing of everything you ever thought or knew about the world, and you're going, what? and stay with it, Yeah, it's really interesting. I have kind of a big question, and this is another thing too. So many people have grown up in organized religion, and they hear about the whole Holy Spirit this, Holy Spirit that. So, according to A Course in Miracles, who or what really is the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, the Holy Spirit is the call to joy. It's the voice for God. It's like the part of the right mind. It's the atonement principle. It's sort of all those things. The atonement principle that reminds us. That's that thought in the right part of our minds that reminds us of the truth. It's the right-minded voice that says we are still innocent, nothing happened, we've never left God. And you can choose me as your teacher. So it's the call to joy. It also calls it it's the gentle, loving, right, companion. It's the teacher that when we choose it leads us away from error and toward truth. So it can sort of be called a little bit of different names, but it represents all of those things. The atonement principle, it says, I never left God, nothing happened, I'm still innocent, and it speaks the voice that speaks for God. But at the highest level, it's all the same thing. We're all the Holy Spirit, we're all the Christ, we're all God. At the highest level. But here we have to have something to choose between, because most of us default to the ego unless we're really aware and we choose the Holy Spirit. So we do need here at this level where we believe we need to remember that we are a mind and not a body, so that way we can use our mind to choose between the Holy Spirit and the ego and say, well, the Holy Spirit, okay, if I choose it, that's going to lead me to peace. That leads to joy. It's a different interpretation entirely of what's going on in my own life, of the world, than what the ego story would be. So, yeah, it talks. Yeah.
And Jack, what's your take on the Holy Spirit? How do you interpret him?
Yeah, well, the Holy Spirit is our right-minded teacher. It's the voice that kind of the memory in the dream of our true home. So the ego's giving us one story, and the Holy Spirit is saying, nothing's happened. I wanted to read you something. It's interesting that you asked that, Carl, because I was looking at this today. If I can find it quickly, I will read it. If not, I won't. This is from The Only Real Relationship, the Holy Instant, right? And the Holy Spirit leads us back to that little by little, right? The Holy Instant does not replace the need for learning, for the Holy Spirit must not leave you as your teacher until the Holy Instant has extended far beyond time. For a teaching assignment such as his, he must use everything in this world for your release. So the Holy Spirit reinterprets everything we made here as the separated self, right? As an individual apart from heaven, knowledge, perfect oneness, light, capital L, love, capital L. The Holy Spirit takes, as our classroom, everything, all the symbols and images that we've made, repurposes it, uses it for forgiveness, and helps us awaken at our own pace, hopefully with as least amount of fear as possible. That's why we have a slow learning pace, and just helps us awaken to our true self. So it's just that soft voice reminding you that nothing has happened, right? So
Yeah.
he meets us, the Holy Spirit meets us where we are here, whatever phases we're at, as we climb the ladder back up to the place the Course is teaching we never left, right?
I love that you say the Holy Spirit uses whatever means possible within this world to help bring you back home. And even Gary mentions in his books that his ascended masters, Arten and Persa, are actually the Holy Spirit appearing as bodies to him.
Yeah, that's true. Anything that can take on a form, even a teacher like, could be the Virgin Mary, could be Arten Persa, it could be an angel. It's all the Holy Spirit at the highest level taking form of beings that we believe can assist us, that our mind believes that will help us. So for someone, it might be the Virgin Mary. It might not be Jesus. It could be Buddha. It could be Krishna. It could be anything to that mind that represents and reminds them of what they are, of the truth. But yeah, coming back to your point, Arten and Persa themselves explained they're the Holy Spirit, but appearing to Gary in a way he can accept and understand as these bodies, because then that's the best way they can communicate, with him. And they use some similar sarcasm and humor that Gary has, because he would relate to that.
Yeah.
They have funny conversations, and they're very smart, and they know what they're doing, and how to reach people. Yeah.
I can imagine some of the viewers and listeners at home going, wait, Buddha is the Holy Spirit? What? Well, stay tuned.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
and the highest level. Yeah.
Well, I have a question that maybe you two have never been asked before. And one big question that I have as the host of a podcast about spirituality and enlightenment is that I've had numerous beings on this show that are channeled through my guests. Now, these beings say that they are members of the galactic community that of other star systems. Now, some say they are higher dimensional beings that coexist and work side by side with angels, saints, and spirit guides, and work as our protectors and guides. Now, this confuses me because most of us think that angels are just simply being exclusively of heaven and not part of some galactic community. I mean, this really is confusing to me. What's your take on this?
Well, angels, you have your sort of within the entire realm of the dream still, but still angels exist within the dream. You have your archangels like Michael, Raphael, and the big archangels who never incarnate. Then you have a group of angels that are of a different order. Yes, these loving, inspiring, powerful beings, when they tend to sometimes incarnate, but that's what we would call new souls, because they don't usually incarnate. When they incarnate, that means new souls meaning souls that maybe have only been around for 1,000 years as opposed to 10,000 or long back to ancient Lemuria and Atlantis. These are new souls, and some of these souls are angelic beings coming in, and they come in, and some of those souls are souls that struggle here because they're not used to being on a planet like this, and so certain kind of, I should say, orders of angels can incarnate. but the ones we know of as the archangels don't. They never incarnate. But they do exist as we all have guardian angels, just like we have spirit guides. And thank goodness for that. We have guides, that because we're being guided all the time. I know a lot of people feel that they feel their guides, talk to them and things like that. And it's good to listen, right? It's good to listen, and we don't have to, deny that experience either, because that could be very helpful. I get a lot of guidance in my dream state at night, a lot. I write them down. That's the way the Holy Spirit speaks to me, is through the most, even though I get hits in the day and things like that. But I get it a lot through my nighttime dreams, inspiration. And I know it's coming from other beings that are assisting me. So, so I just pay attention when that happens.
Yeah. What about you, Jackie? What's your take on that, about these galactic beings saying they're hanging out with angels and everything?
Yeah. Well, it's a vast illusion, Carl. So there are many within the dream galaxies and beings and different things. Everything is in the mind of the dreamer, but people that are having these experiences, right, are viewing a certain script in the dream where their mind has made up beings that are helpful to them. Again, it's kind of, while we're in fear here, subconsciously we don't know our mind is so powerful, so we have to outsource to other people and beings, and they're helping, right? It's your own mind that's always helping you. And we're always creating symbols and forms and images. And those are angels and galactic federations and beings and people helping the world and all those things. So we use those just like we would anything else if they're helpful. The question always is, what is the purpose? What is it for? Of course, would always come down to, okay, at the end of the day, everything is for forgiveness. What if these beings say something I don't agree with? Or what if something doesn't, or you can go down that road and then you remember, oh my gosh, yeah, but this is all part of my dream still. But this is really helpful that they're sharing this information. This is really helpful that I'm getting this in this way. We're encouraged to do it, right? This is what bodies do. We have messages from galactic beings. We drink water. We eat food. We exercise. We all part of the illusion. So I always encourage people to do what works for them. At the end of the day, when they ask amazing questions like you did, and you're in good company with that question, is, but wait, nothing's real, but then what? Well, because it's all in the mind of the dreamer. There's nothing outside, but all these different symbols and images get projected out, and they're very helpful as we're ascending the ladder back, right?
Well, I'm really glad that you brought up the illusion part, because, I've spoken to Athela from Sirius B, who is a 12th dimension ascended master, the Council of Light. I've spoken to the Collective. I've spoken to the Pleiadian Council of Light. And I actually brought this up one time. I go, well, as I see it, we're all in a dream of separation from all that is, from the ultimate, from God, from Source. And I said to them, so that means you're actually, even though you're a 12th level dimension, you're actually still in a dream of separation. So.
Yeah, everything, I think, if we're really paying attention to and listening to what the Course really is teaching, anything that's out appears to take on any form of any kind would still be part of the realm of the perception of the dream. But the points, a good point to make is, it doesn't mean we don't use it, no, right? The wisdom that comes, just like we don't deny our experience in the world. But yes, anything outside of the realm of absolute reality, God, anything else seems to be outside of that is part of the false world perception, until there's just that experience of There's only God, only perfect love. And that's the highest level.
Yep.
The only level that it really is real, is real. But yeah, it's very important to make the point because of level confusion that we don't want to deny, push away, right, help or beings that we might believe will assist us, because that's an important part of the journey, you know.
Well, I just want to remind people that we are speaking to the two amazing sisters of light and love, Jackie Lora-Jones and Cindy Lora-Renard. I have maybe one more question. We've been having a great conversation here. And like I said, I like to ask the large questions. So many of my guests on this show speak about how mankind is right now, here in 2024 and beyond, going through a process of ascension from the 3D to the 5D, as much as the world is shifting into a higher level of consciousness and understanding. Would one of you care to address this?
Sure.
Again, within the dream,
Yeah.
right? There's always going to be where we're going up and humanity is rising and then something's going down, right? So right now there seems to be an upswing of ascending, right? And going through that particular timeline. It still is within the larger picture of the dream of duality and perception, but it's not inaccurate, nor should people shy away if that interests them. And there's nothing wrong with raising your vibration and working on your consciousness. It is going to help you. If we use consciousness for the Holy Spirit's purpose, it is going to help you here have an easier experience, because you're going to have less guilt and less fear in the mind, right? And so we could talk endless. It's a whole nother show about the going from 3D to 5D and everything like that. And it is a reflection of the mind awakening. I write this in about this in my forthcoming book. Waking up within the dream is a reflection of starting to wake up from the dream, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, do it, use it, raise your vibration. Just remember what it's all for at the end of the day, if you want to, right? That's helpful.
I think at the level of the dream, we're absolutely making the shift. For sure, there are groups at the level of the dream we're talking about. We do make shifts, and there are so many different versions of Earth and different dimensions of time, where even if some in one dimension, it might remain in 3D, or maybe in another dimension, someone is experiencing that raising up of the vibration into fourth, fifth dimension. But yes, since time is happening all at once, all of these dimensions of 3D, 4D, 5D, and so forth, it's already happened. It's all happening now. It's just a matter of where's our focus going to be? What is our perception? You know, and when we do, to use that term, when we do work on practicing true forgiveness, it does raise our vibration. And we will find ourselves making that shift into what we would call a higher dimension, because we're choosing it. And if we're practicing and being very aware, we're choosing it, and we're very, aware of our choices and what interpretations we're making, and practicing forgiveness, all that assists us in making the shift.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, now that I hear you guys explaining this, I think, Jackie, you keep bringing up, it's all a dream and everything. And I think in moments when I'm confused about that, I have to go back to that and say, oh, wait, it's a dream. It's all a part of that dream of separation. And it brings me back to, oh yeah, we're going home to source. So beautiful stuff. Gosh, I'm so glad you two are here.
It's fun to be here.
Yes, it's so fun. And just remember, like we said earlier, it doesn't mean you don't use everything in the dream.
Yeah.
It helps you. It doesn't mean you're not interested in it. We wouldn't be interested in it if it wasn't in our script. We wouldn't be. So do everything like that. I think one reason people are confused is they're trying to just say, yeah, but if it's illusion, it doesn't. Well, it does mean something here. It's going to get you home if you choose that. But you be normal here. People just do the things that you enjoy. Just encourage people to just stay in their joy, whatever it is. The world can get crazy. But when you're interested in these things and you want to talk to the councils of light, and there's many, and the councils of nine, and the galactic this and that, and talk to them. That is how your mind is bringing you information when it's in too much fear to recognize that everything's coming from you. So Jesus says what? Many times. We use the symbols of the world a while. Never feel guilty about it. Enjoy your time here. Awaken. You'll awaken. You're on your own path.
You know, if you remember, Cindy, in 2021, I came out to San Antonio to yours and Gary's workshop, and we went to dinner after the workshop that night, if you remember, at the Tower of the Americas, and it was so cool to see you too, because exactly what Jackie's talking. Enjoy your time here. We had a great dinner, drinking wine and
I know.
laughing and having fun. We're in this. Why not enjoy yourself,
Oh, absolutely. I think that actually, briefly here, cannot be emphasized enough, that being normal. I mean, we keep hearing that, but of course, it's really not about the work behavior, it's about a change of mind.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we have to change anything here we're doing. That'll just happen naturally. As you change your mind, your experience will change anyway.
I'm sitting there at dinner. Here's Cindy and Gary, and I go, "Oh my God! Wait, they really are human. They're having fun." That's great.
I always get a kick out of that, because we're like, I feel like the most normal people. We're not, we're not like trying to be some gurus or anything like that. We're students of the Holy Spirit too. Yeah. We're not. We formally teach it, but it doesn't mean we're not students, and we're very aware of that.
Well, we're going to have to wind up here. I've had a rough throat. My voice is going away. But the last thing is I want to wind up here. Let's talk about your books. Now, Jackie, you have a book called All Peace and No Pieces. How did that come about? And then you have a new book coming, right?
Yeah, I just, for years and years and years, intuitively, I knew I was going to do a book series. Just had to be the right timing. And it was probably in 2007 or something like that. I was watching The Wizard of Oz, the movie, that I just have on every year. I kind of watch it as I'm doing other things in the house or whatever. And after seeing it all that time and knowing that that was her dream that she's going to wake up from, I said, oh my gosh, that'll be book one. I'll just use that as the analogy. And so guess what? That idea came in 2007, and the book was published in 2018. So there goes to show you the Holy Spirit's timing. I just leave everything up to life's timing, but that's kind of how it came to be. But doing the book series at all, I've just known that forever. It just came to me one day. You're like, oh, you're going to do a book series. And then that was the end of it. And so I'm currently working on my second book, not diligently every day. I'll go through months without working on it, but I feel like September is going to be an inspiration time again, so we'll see. And then the second book will be out whenever it's out, and then the third one, the trilogy, will be out whenever that's out.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. And you have 4 books, and I think I saw in your newsletter that a number of them are now being translated into multiple languages. That's very cool, extending your reach.
Boy, it seemed a few of them seemed to happen all at once. And I was like, wow, this is a nice kind of period right now where, I've been contacted recently by a few different publishers that got them published. And the latest one is into Polish, which I never would have expected. And then I have someone from China who's working on all 4 of my books, the translations, and wants to help get a publishing deal there. So I'm very happy about that, sure, because it just helps the message even go further. That's how I look at it. Just helps it go further and reach more people. I think
that's the Holy Spirit at work helping you extend His word.
I think so. I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, I definitely believe that it is. I feel that it is. So, and there'll be more books too coming because I feel it.
Yeah. And you guys both have YouTube channels. Cindy just started one, right?
I just started one and I absolutely enjoy it so much. It's just another platform to talk about what I love, to talk about A Course in Miracles. And I even do some singing a little bit. I'll probably do some, share a few songs every now and then, or meditation or something. But I just love that platform. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I have 4 videos so far.
I was looking at it, and you've getting some nice views there. And Jackie, you have a podcast and a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I've actually had my first YouTube channel for many, many years, and I was interviewing a lot of people, our friends, just different psychics, mediums, healers, encouraging people to do things here that help them and giving them some choices and some examples. Last year, I just started a new YouTube channel too, which I'll be just kind of chronicling some of my teachings. And also my husband Mark and I are embarking on this musical journey we've wanted to do for years, which is gigging, doing some gigs, performing 80s tunes. And so I'm going to be putting a bunch of that on my YouTube channel as well. So be a lot of fun videos to come. People have asked me for years about, well, I just want to know how you live your normal life. And I'm like, well, that time is now. So that'll be fun. So we're really looking forward to it. We wanted to do that for 11, 12 years. And again, everything is just about the timing. So.
Well, it's not hard to tell that you two grew up with a mom who was a music teacher. You're both musicians.
Yeah, it extends way into our family tree here.
Dad,
I mean, a lot of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does, both sides. No, that's all I was going to say. So.
We're going to wind up here. So what are both your websites, and what's the best way people can connect with you? Jackie, you can start.
Okay, yeah, people can go to JackieLora-Jones.com. I'm also on Instagram at Jackie Lora-Jones, and I have a Facebook business page, which is my spiritual teachings, and then just a Facebook personal page. So I post a lot of fun, just course stuff and videos on Instagram and Facebook now. But my website is, JackieLora-Jones.com.
Very cool. And Cindy?
Well, I have my website, Cindy, Cindy, Lora, Lora.com. You can find everything there. And then I'm not really on social media except for, haven't done social media much. So, but I do have the YouTube channel now. So the YouTube channel, you can watch my videos there. I have a lot of videos actually on YouTube in general. But my website has a lot of information about everything that I do. Any appearances maybe coming up, webinars, books, music. It has a lot of, so you can go there to get the bulk of the information.
And you and Gary Renard do monthly online workshops that people attend. Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. I do like to mention that in case people don't know about it. We do two-hour online classes on A Course in Miracles every month. We've been doing it over 6 years now. And we've grown to family has grown to just people all around the world tune in, and it's just a great family of people that support each other. And we have a great discussions about the course. They can ask questions. So yeah, they can go to my website or Gary's. I have a little more about the classes on my website, but if they want to subscribe or you can go to either of our websites, GaryRenard.com or CindyLora.com, and find out more about how to subscribe to be a part of our class.
Okay, well, and I will put all those links in the show notes so people can click on them and go right to it. And next time I talk to you two, I got to remember to bring sunglasses because of the brilliance of light and love shining off of you guys, man. I can hardly see. I'm blinded.
We love you, Carl.
Yeah, we do love you, Carl. And that is very kind of you to say, but that's a reflection of you. So right back at you. You're talking about yourself.
Light recognizes light.
All 3 of us will have sunglasses on next time.
That's right.
All right. I love you too very much. Thank you so much. Cindy, tell Gary I said hi. I haven't met Mark, but tell him I said hi too.
Will do.
I sure will. Thank you so much, Carl. And Sin, always good to see you. We do see
Always
each other.
says this.
But yeah, now it's online. Yeah. Thank you so
always-
much, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified Law of Attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.